Chapter 1. The Signal. The first anomaly was detected on a cold January morning by NATO Signals Intelligence Station in northern Norway. At 03:17 local time, an operator noticed a burst transmission, short, encrypted, and unusually powerful. It originated from deep within Soviet-controlled territory near the Kola Peninsula. At first, analysts assumed it was routine military communication, but something was wrong. The signal pattern matched no known Soviet encryption protocol. Even more disturbing, it repeated every 47 minutes. Within 48 hours, NATO intelligence centers across Europe confirmed the same pattern. Similar transmissions were being detected in East Germany, Poland, and Czechoslovakia. Something was being coordinated, and it was large. At SHAPE headquarters in Belgium, a closed-door meeting was convened. Maps were spread across tables, red pins marking signal sources like a growing infection. A senior intelligence officer finally broke the silence. "We are not looking at routine military drills. This is synchronization." A pause. Synchronization of what? No one answered immediately. Then a CIA liaison officer placed a thin folder on the table. Inside was a satellite image taken over East Germany. It showed something that should not have existed, a vast underground facility still under construction. Chapter 2. The Impossible Facility. The installation was located beneath a dense forest region near the Elbe River. From above, nothing unusual was visible. Trees, frozen ground, rural, roads. But infrared scans told a different story. Heat signatures revealed ventilation systems. Power grid mapping showed massive energy consumption, and seismic readings indicated deep excavation tunnels stretching several kilometers underground. The facility was not defensive, it was not logistical, it was operational command infrastructure. The conclusion was unavoidable. The Soviet Union was building a hardened underground command center capable of surviving nuclear war. But there was a problem. It was not listed in any known intelligence budget allocation. Which meant one of two things. Either NATO had missed the largest construction project in Europe, or the Soviets were preparing for something that required secrecy, even within their own system. That night, a single decision was made. A reconnaissance mission would be deployed. Deep penetration, no diplomatic authorization, no public record. If caught, the operation would be denied entirely. The mission was given a call sign. BLACK Eclipse TEAMONE. Chapter 3. Insertion. 3 nights later, under a moonless sky, a modified NATO transport aircraft crossed into East German airspace at low altitude. Inside, 6 operatives checked their equipment in silence. They were not ordinary soldiers. Each had been selected from elite reconnaissance and intelligence units across NATO countries. Their leader was Captain Daniel Mercer, a British Special Air Service operative known for completing missions that officially never happened. Beside him sat a German signals expert, a French demolition specialist, an American intelligence officer, a Norwegian survival expert, an Italian communications technician. Their objective was simple on paper: confirm the existence and purpose of the underground installation. Their real objective was unspoken: determine if it is part of a preemptive strike system. At 01, 42 hours, the aircraft opened its rear ramp. Cold air rushed inside like a blade. One by one, they jumped. Chapter 4. The Forest of Shadows. They landed in a snow-covered forest, approximately 18 kilometers from the target zone. Extraction was not scheduled for 72 hours. If anything went wrong, they were on their own. The team moved quickly, burying parachutes and establishing a temporary observation post. For the first 24 hours, everything seemed almost too easy. No patrols, no drones, no movement. That silence worried Mercer more than enemy activity. On the second night, the German analyst picked up something unusual on his portable receiver: a low-frequency pulse, repeating the same pattern NATO had detected weeks earlier. They were close. By dawn, they reached the edge of a restricted zone marked only by subtle changes in tree density and soil disruption. Beneath them, the ground was alive. Hidden ventilation shafts blended into rock formations. Camouflaged radar domes rotated silently beneath artificial terrain covers. And then they saw it. A reinforced steel access structure embedded into the hillside. Guards patrolled the perimeter, Soviet special forces, armed, alert. This was no longer reconnaissance from a distance. They were looking directly into the heart of it. Chapter 5. First Contact. Mercer made the decision quickly. They needed visual confirmation from inside the perimeter. The French demolition specialist, Lieutenant Adrien Moreau, prepared a small breaching charge designed not to destroy, but to silently open a maintenance tunnel entrance. At 02, 13 hours, they moved. Snow fell lightly, masking their footsteps. They reached a blind spot between two guard rotations. Moreau placed the charge. A silent detonation followed. A steel panel shifted inward just enough. They slipped inside. What they found changed everything. The tunnel was not empty. It was active. Personnel moved through illuminated corridors carrying data files, encrypted communication devices, and weapons. But this was not just a military base. It was a command city. Multi-level infrastructure stretched below them like a buried metropolis. And at its center, a strategic operations hub connected to long-range missile systems. Captain Mercer whispered into his mic. "This is not defensive. This is launch capability." Then the alarms triggered. Somehow, they had been detected. Chapter 6. The hunt begins. Red emergency lights flooded the underground corridors. Soviet troops sealed exits within seconds. The team was trapped deep inside enemy territory. Colonel Viktor Sokolov, commander of the facility, was informed immediately. His response was cold and precise. Neutralize intruders. Do not allow extraction of data. Black Eclipse Team 1 was now classified as a terminal security breach. No prisoners, no escape. The NATO team split into two groups. Mercer led the first toward the eastern maintenance shaft. The American officer and Norwegian survival expert covered the rear. Gunfire erupted in the tunnels. Not chaotic, but controlled, disciplined bursts. Soviet forces were not panicking. They were hunting. Chapter 7. Descent. The deeper they moved, the more complex the structure became. Elevators dropped them beneath reinforced layers of concrete and steel. They passed control rooms filled with radar arrays tracking NATO airspace in real time. Then came the central chamber, a massive circular room dominated by a digital operations map of Europe. Missile vectors were displayed across multiple screens. Targeting sequences were active, but something was wrong. The system was not armed. It was simulating a training environment. Mercer realized the truth. This is not preparation for war. It's a war game simulation at scale. But before they could process it further, gunfire echoed through the chamber entrance. Soviet troops had arrived. Chapter 8. Breakout. What followed was a controlled retreat through collapsing infrastructure. The team used smoke, time charges, and knowledge of ventilation systems to disrupt pursuit. The Norwegian operative was injured during a corridor exchange. Mercer refused to leave him behind. This decision cost them time they did not have. Soviet forces sealed the lower levels. Flooding protocols were initiated in selected tunnels to force intruders upward. The entire complex was transforming into a trap. Water began rising through drainage channels. Electrical systems failed in sections. Emergency bulkheads closed like jaws. They were being herded toward one final exit point. Chapter 9. The surface line. After an hour of moving through collapsing tunnels, they reached a service elevator shaft. It was their only route out, but it was guarded. A final Soviet security unit waited at the top. Colonel Sokolov himself arrived shortly after. He studied the situation through surveillance monitors. Then he issued a surprising order. Let them come up. The elevator ascended. The doors opened. Silence. For a moment, neither side moved. Mercer and Sokolov stood less than 20 meters apart. Sokolov spoke first. "You were never supposed to see this place." Mercer replied, "And yet you built it where everyone could find it." Sokolov paused. Then he said something unexpected. "If war comes, this facility ensures survival, not victory, survival." A long silence followed. Then Mercer made his final decision. He transmitted all collected data to NATO command, open channel, unencrypted. Sokolov did not stop him. Chapter 10. Extraction. Within minutes, NATO command authorized emergency extraction. Soviet air defenses tracked incoming helicopters, but no engagement order was given. Mercer's team was evacuated under tense but controlled conditions. No shots were fired during extraction. No pursuit followed. As the helicopters crossed back into NATO airspace, Mercer looked down at the snow-covered forest disappearing beneath them. The facility was gone again, hidden, silent, alive. Epilogue. Aftermath. Official records of Operation Black Eclipse do not exist. Neither NATO nor Warsaw Pact archives acknowledge the mission. However, declassified intelligence fragments from decades later suggest something important. The underground facility was part of a mutual deterrence simulation program designed to prevent accidental nuclear escalation, not a launch site. A control experiment, a system built not for war, but to ensure that if war ever came, it would remain controlled long enough for humanity to step back from the edge. Historians still debate whether Black Eclipse prevented a war, or simply revealed how close one had already come.